today we will be taking up the subject of internal weapons. If the subject is of interest to you, I invite you to call some of your friends, female friends, sisters, to join us for this half an hour. Internal weapons is an aspect of spirituality, something that you may not have thought of before, but Sister Denise is here to enlighten us on the subject. Sister Denise, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
Internal weapons. Sister Denise, one does not normally associate spirituality, which gives one the feeling of calmness and peace and internal harmony, with weapons. That almost is a contradiction in terms?
Well, if you look at some of the artwork associated with spirituality, you'll see St. George has a spear, you'll see angels having swords, and then if you move over to India, the goddesses have quite gruesome weapons, tridents, bowls of blood, all kinds of pretty strong weapons, and these are all symbolic of the internal weapons, and this is why I think we're taking up this title.
Sister Denise, how does weaponry impact on one's spiritual existence? What is the link between the two?
You know, sometimes I've been talking about how conventional morality can be very toxic and very counterproductive, and I think that once you embark on your spiritual practice, you have to really move away from that, and in its place you're going to put virtues which are very soft, very like flowers, but you also have to have powers, and these powers are your weapons. And the person who's embarking in the path of spirituality is going to encounter the force of evil, and you have to destroy it. And that means you have to have your weapons, otherwise it will destroy you.
That is the theory of it. Take us through what you mean practically. I want to look at it from real life situations.
People generally associate evil with violence and laying waste to people, places, things. And so violence, death, pain, horror, manipulation, all these like really negative things. And as you move along on your spiritual path, what you're doing in spiritual practice is a process of purification. First of all, self-purification, which means that your inner demons will come and challenge you, because the process of self-purification provokes the opposite. And then as you continue, you will also provoke external opposition, negativity, and so on. And so therefore you need to deal with it as it appears. The whole life of spiritual practice means that every so often you encounter different demons, and they correspond to character defects, to weaknesses, to fears, to your own inner violence, and you have to address it, and you have to wipe it out. And that isn't done by being sweet. You have to be very forceful and have inner weapons that are made of that spiritual energy. So like lightning bolt. You know how they say Thor has thunderbolts? It is a kind of weapon. But of course in the mythology they show all these things as physical weapons, but it's all symbolic for what has to go on in the inner war. There is an inner battle between the light and the dark, because ultimately you come out as a person who has made a great conquest.
When you speak about the war between the light and the dark, you're referring to one's own inner battle with your good side versus your dark side? Remember in the good old days, Sister Denise, there was the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, these are the two people talking to you.
Yeah, which is
And
part of your own psyche.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there is also this idea of whatever you do in the microcosm of your inner world, also it impacts the greater world, the wider world. And what we're seeing at the moment, which people are remarking on more and more, and using words like evil and devilish and that sort of thing, that there are things going on in the world and circumstances that people are having to endure and experience which are absolutely horrific, and nobody knows really how to stop it or finish it or make it go away. And so this is escalating and really scaring people a lot.
So then, Sister Denise, the solution for the evil in the world, it cannot possibly be more violence, can it? Because violence has been escalating and getting progressively worse now, and all we see is, one side obliterating the other side, and that's not the answer, is it?
Well, when you put petrol on fire, it's always going to increase. And any of the analyses of the current political situation in different parts of the world will show you that the extreme conditions that we have at the moment were created, and they're not looking like calming down anytime soon, because it's just a condition of escalation and provocation and reaction, and the fire is spreading all over the place and multiplying itself into different areas, and it's very, very hard to know where to put yourself, because it's very complicated, and it's like all sides are not okay, and the force for good is sort of disappearing somewhere. And so I think that it's very relevant that those who engage in the process of spiritual work really do this inner work, knowing that whatever they can accomplish inside is really going to actually cause the external to reach its completion and finish.
Sister Denise, when you speak of internal spiritual work, where is it that you're going with all of this? What is it that you plan to achieve? I assume you have some sort of aim. You're not doing all of this for fun.
Well, I think when you start, you might do it for relaxation or for curiosity or something like that, and pretty soon you find that there's more to it.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit stressed. I heard of this meditation center down the road. I want to pop by and check this out. Oh, these people seem nice. I think I'll stick around. Something like that.
I mean, it often starts like that, and then you have to see if you decide clearly for yourself, and if you also recognize this microcosm, macrocosm matrix that is there, that if I do the work on myself and finish all negativity within myself, this is the solution to negativity in the world.
Oh, whoa. That is potent stuff. I think you have to say it again. If I finish?
Well, if I do the work on myself and finish, if I do the work on myself and I finish all negativity in myself, that includes the negativity I've taken in, as much as any negativity I've put out or entertained or resent. I mean, at every level, you see, that's the purification process. And when you do that to its complete extent, it will have an effect in the wider world to the extent that it will take out the negativity in the world. because there's a formula that whatever you do on the inside, it's happening on the outside.
Okay, internal weapons. Do you cough one up? Do you see it in someone else and realize this works for this one? I want to use it myself. Do you have a weakness within you and you emerge a strength to counteract the weakness? What do you mean by weaponry? And Sister Denise, weapons cause harm. That's why they're built. They're designed to kill. Bows, they kill. Okay? What is it that you want to destroy? I assume it's not a who, it's a what.
It's a what.
It's a what, okay.
You know, we would call it the inner demons, the inner monsters, you can say.
Okay, so you're talking about the things that we all have, like fear and anxiety and anger and avarice and all of those.
Anything that you could put in the category of negativity, you see, you will use weapons to take out that. And if you don't use weapons, those things will take out you. You know, a person can get consumed by their anger.
Yeah, and we've all met at least one person in our lives who have been obliterated by one of their weaknesses.
Yeah, it happens very much. We are enslaved by our weaknesses. We are at the mercy of our weaknesses, and what we're trying to do here is turn the table so that I come into my power and I actually finish off all of my weaknesses. So weapons are not something that you just make up. They are gifts.
Okay. Sister Denise, you mentioned there's something I need to ask you before I ask you to answer the rest of my previous question. Is a person their weaknesses? We tend, in our use of language, not to say, I have anger. You think, I am so angry. You own it. You take it on. I am deadly afraid of this, this, and this. I ... We own our weaknesses. Is a human being their weaknesses?
Well, I think actually, you know, you even use it more for other people. You're a liar, you're a violent person, you're this or that. There's a lot of accusations come. Because one prefers to be a good person than a bad person, you know, oneself. But other people may be bad, but I'm good. I think people say like that. No, you can say, oh, I'm very angry, but not I am anger.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
But, yeah, these passions, these negative, strong negative emotions, these resentments, these feelings that we have that cause us to do negative karma and that cause us to suffer, to make others suffer and really, you know, go into some sort of an abyss, you know. And so every person, when they look inside themselves very carefully, they probably wouldn't want to because they'll just see so many weaknesses, so many problems that they'll sort of give up. And this is why I think there's a bit of a safety mechanism that you just can't see it. You see a little bit. But I think what the spiritual practice does, you know, you go inside, you go into stillness, it causes all this to come up. Maybe from your subconscious to your conscious. And then you see what you have to deal with.
Okay, so the short answer to are you your weaknesses is?
No, you have weaknesses.
But you're not your weaknesses.
You are a pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful, blissful soul who's running on empty.
Why is it that that is next to impossible for people to grasp even after hearing what you just said? It's a question of, this sounds wonderful, I want to believe it, I need to believe it, I have to believe it. However, it just doesn't gel with me. Why is that?
Well, because it's so long ago that it was the case. You've lost contact with your soul. You've lost contact with your originality. And so you have to be reminded of it. You have to hear about it. You have to think about it and imagine it. And, you know, when you're having a very powerful meditation experience, which happens, I mean, meditation is your connection with God. And God will always give you a taster. When you are a peaceful soul, and there was a time when you were peaceful and it feels like this, and you say, oh, I want that, and then you can't get it again, so you have to do the work to get it. So I think God works a little bit like that, to give you a sample. This is what it's like to be blissful. Oh yeah, I want that. Okay, if you want that, then you have to do this, this, this. You have to purify yourself, all of these things.
Okay, so from what you just said, Sister Denise, we are originally all of these 5 qualities that you just mentioned, and we've now reached our weakest stage, so that these qualities are no longer apparent, and all the opposite qualities, the antonyms to that, is more prevalent.
You know, the space in your soul, when it's filled with all of these things, then you are in your power and in your happiness and all that. But when these qualities get used up through life, then that space, instead of being filled with the light of those qualities, goes dark. And the darkness takes the form of the opposite of those qualities, and then you're consumed by that. So you have to bring light into it. So that's one level. You're not fighting darkness with weapons. Your weapons are for monsters that get created. And so a lot of it is to do with your negative karma.
Okay, so Sister Denise, you're now having to deal with the fact that you've become a fearful person. Okay, tell us how you would use your weaponry in that context. I need for our viewer to know practically what it is that we're talking about. Whatever you said makes perfect sense, but I want to know practically. I'm facing fear. I have fear of...
Well, this is the thing. You have a phobia of something.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm afraid of the dark. So you will address that fear. And the weapons that you will use, being afraid of the dark, is you will have to make yourself practice being light. And you'll also have to practice facing the dark. So facing is your weapon. That you face the fear, you face the thing that you don't want to face, but you just cultivate that weapon and practice facing it.
So before you face your fear, you would have to have a very deep-set belief that you're more than your fear.
Well, you have to take a step of courage, because this is what courage is. You, on the level of feeling, you know very well that you can't handle it. When you take a step of courage, you go and face it anyway. And this act of doing that in the face of fear causes the divine to give you extra strength, extra power, so that something that a moment before was totally impossible for you becomes possible. And then you have experienced that what you are absolutely sure you cannot do, you can't say that anymore because you just did it. And so it shifts it. And so, you know, a person who is given weapons, they need to be expert in the use of those weapons, and you also have to have courage when you are applying them, because you apply your weapons in the face of opposition, in the face of some sort of onslaught from some enemy, from some negative thing, some negative force that you are having to take out, you see. So this is why we call it a battle.
But the battle that you're referring to is between your real self and your dark side.
You say, if this is dark, I perceive this is dark, and I'm afraid of dark, so I run off in the other direction because of my perception. And so what you do, okay, you perceive it's dark, but then you know that it's just like a mirage. And what you have to do is take your courage and pierce the dark with your weapon to show yourself that actually it's nothing.
Sister Denise, what a lot of people experience is that they have conversations with themselves by saying to themselves, you know, I have this vicious temper, and my spouse and my best friend and my mother and my this one and that one have told me that it's not a good idea being so temperamental, and I agree 100% with them. So I'm making a decision that I do not wish to become angry anymore. However, something happens on the external that triggers your anger quality, and within seconds you go from dead calm to white hot rage, despite your good intentions.
No, but there you need a different weapon for that.
And what weapon are you referring to?
Tolerance. Because your anger is provoked by something that you can't tolerate, that provokes you. So you have to use the weapon that I can handle this. I can tolerate this. I can accommodate this. It is not provoking me. That's the weapon.
This obviously takes a lot of internal work, doesn't it? It's years and years and years of work.
Well, you've got to start somewhere.
True.
And so you start with a small amount of anger, and maybe your anger will build up, because, you know, if you want to be completely free from anger, you know, the force of anger, the spirit of anger, you can say, is going to say, well, you know, you think that you can take out me, but I am the master of you. So, you know, that means it's going to come at you with all of its force. It's kind of mythic force, you know. And so if you say to the force of violence, anger, fiery temper, or whatever, okay, I choose to bring you under my influence and neutralize you, then it will gather up its maximum strength and let you know that you can't, you know. So it's really a fight between at least equal powers. And so you need to really develop your capacity for using that weapon. You need to fill yourself with a lot of spiritual power, and you need to get skilled in how to apply tolerance and how fast, you see, because a provocation happens in a nanosecond, and you may take 2 seconds, oh, I shouldn't have got angry. Well, that's too late, you missed altogether. You have to respond, you know, more fast than instantaneous. So we call this rapid effort.
Okay, Sister Denise, for many, there is the deep-seated belief, I'll never change, and people don't change. They just remain who they are. It's one of those things that exist out there in the world, where people say, this person will never change, I will never change. Do people really change, Sister Denise? Is it naive to assume that one can, you know, through spiritual empowerment, metamorphosize into something better than what you were in the past?
You have to know that the whole point is transformation. The whole purpose of engaging in spiritual practice is self-transformation. And to know that the equation is self-transformation causes world transformation, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And so if you want to transform yourself, you will find yourself getting rather tired of failing because it doesn't happen very easily. However, if you persist if you show up, if you do your practice every day, you will accumulate power. And this is why a lot of importance is given to the everyday practice. And, you know, after a few years, you have accumulated quite a lot of power, and your, you know, moments where you get hit by some bout of anger or massive provocation or whatever, it's time to time. And you also have to assess yourself. And if you are determined, determination is a very important part of the process. If you are determined, I will do this, then you're also growing your willpower. And you refuse to, you know, give up. And you just stay there, stay with it.
You refuse to give up
on your effort to achieve conquest of anger, say, if that's what your thing is.
Okay.
You know, and you just do it until it relinquishes its hold on you. And the thing is, you have to be in it for the long haul. I mean, sometimes people think, oh, you know, I'll be perfect in 5 minutes. Well, it doesn't work like that. It's a lifetime journey. And so I think it's very important for a person to realize that you're taking baby steps, is incremental, that you're chipping away at that negative force and gradually weakening it, while continuing to strengthen yourself. And every time you engage in any kind of battle, you may win or lose, but whatever it is, you get more experienced.
Wow, Sister Denise, would you believe we've finished 30 minutes of this conversation? So there you go, internal weapons, a very, very powerful message from Sister Denise as to how one can use one's spiritual knowledge to become a better you. I think that's the purpose of this entire series, but very, very important and powerful message, and I do hope that this is something that you can use to your highest advantage in your life. I would highly recommend that you watch today's episode again, because Sister Denise's answers sometimes strike deeper after having listened to it for the second or third time. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again for the next episode. Take care and goodbye.